In this video, I want to describe to you the very intimate relationship that exists between imagination, the breath, and the sexual energy. So these three things form like a triad, a triangle of relations. And what all these three things have in common is that they are all related to life. And they are all part of the creative forces of the human being. First of all, the breath is very easy to relate to life. The first thing we do when we come to life, when we're born, is to breathe. And the last thing we do on this earth, in this body, in this life, is to breathe out. So every moment that we're breathing, life is entering us. So breath is life. And another thing about the breath, it's always the moment. So that's why so many people who meditate, they focus on the breath, because focusing on the breath brings your awareness into the moment. Because breath is the now, and that's the only thing what we have in life is the now. So the life is the now, life is the breath. Now we can't grab onto the future because it hasn't come to pass yet. We can't grab onto the past because it's gone, it no longer is. But the only thing we always ever have is this very moment, is the breath in this moment, is life in this moment. So your life is now, your life is the breath. And while the sexual energy is so easy to see how it is related to life. Without a sexual act, we would not have any life whatsoever. So the sexual energy in the human being is the creative power of the human being. The sex is also life. Sex is creation. So breath and the sexual force together are intimately linked in that way, that they are life, they are creation together. So using our breath, we can influence, we can control, we can move our sexual energy. Breathing in, for example, draws our sexual energy up into our brain, and then down. When we breathe out, we can move it into our heart. So the breath has the power to transmute the sexual energy, to extract the sexual energy from its raw state, which we know is the seminal entity in a man, for example, and that energy can be drawn up where it moves through very subtle, vital channels, or known in Chinese medicine as meridians. That qi, which is also really the sexual energy, flows to the various other organs and parts of the body when we breathe in and intentionally wish that the sexual energy be transmuted and moved, channeled throughout the body. So the other thing that curiously is very intimately related is imagination. So imagination is all about creation. Now we wouldn't have this creation, the body we have, all the various things that we have in this life and in this world without imagination. Because before things come to be, in their physical form, for example, they existed, or they were thought up, they were conjured up, or they were imagined in our mind. So and then that imagination took momentum and started to be condensed into form, and then we have a physical object. For example, a car, before it's made, exists in the mind of the creator, in the imagination of the creator, or the designer or the engineer who designs the car. And then through various other processes, that design that was in the engineer or the manufacturer's imagination gets crystallized or condensed into physical form, bit by bit, piece by piece. So we know that the sexual energy in us, works, unfortunately, negatively with the imagination. And the negative use of the imagination is the mechanical side of imagination, which is fantasy. So with fantasy, we're always prone to escaping, always prone to compensating for what we don't have. So people, because they have a lot of sexual desire, they cannot fulfill it, so they use fantasy to fulfill it. Fantasy becomes a means of compensation When you can't fulfill a desire, physically here in the physical world, we fulfill it through our fantasies in our mind. So those fantasies use our sexual energy in a negative way, not in a very constructive way. But they do activate and move and disturb and churn up our sexual energy. So the imagination has a great power to play around with, to move, to disturb, to influence our sexual energy. So fantasy does it in a negative way, a disordered way, a mechanical way as well. But we're interested in doing things voluntarily, positively and consciously. So if we use imagination rather than fantasy, we can move, channel, direct our sexual energy. And then the sexual energy acts upon imagination to create something. So if we're always fantasizing, imagining negative things, combining it with sexual energy, the sexual energy gives some sort of power, some sort of form that those negative things crystallize, which is not so good. If we're always imagining positive things, spiritual things, edifying, dignifying things, and combine it with the sexual energy gives force to those things and helps to bring those things into actuality. So once again, just to finish, imagination, breath and the sexual energy are all linked. They form an intimate triad. And so if we use them positively, consciously, they can become a very powerful force within us. Okay, so I just wanted to post this video for you as something for you to think about and to see if you're using any of those three factors in a way that's not helping you. Try to transform it, change it into the positive use of them. Instead of